So, the top 10 men from Kona 2024. Let's take a look at their bikes, see if we can spot some patterns. Hey everybody, Nick from TriRig here. Today I want to take a look at some more rigs from Ironman 2024. I recently posted a video taking a look at the bikes of 3 of the top finishers. Number 1, overall race winner and new course record holder Patrick Lange. Number 2, Magnus Ditlev, who also had a blisteringly fast bike leg and came in 2nd place. And number 3, Sam Laidlow, who didn't come in the top 10 unfortunately, but did set a brand new bike course record at 3:57, unheard of for Kona. Today, I want to take a look at all 10 of the top male finishers. Now, I'm not looking at top 10 bike splits, I'm looking at top 10 overall results and the bikes that those particular individuals raced on. And stick around at the end, we'll have a few honorable mentions at the end. But the reason I want to do this is because there are some really interesting patterns that have emerged over the years among these top finishers. So let's take a look at them. So we start here with Patrick Lange. We won't go into his bike in too much detail because I already did that in a previous video, but we see a real clean Canyon bike here, 1x drivetrain, covered rear derailleur cage, custom rear bottle here with this little fin by Canyon, and a double bottle setup up front. Last time, I didn't really mention that this bottle appears to be a custom straw solution. It looks like this was a down tube aero bottle. I think this is a fidlock cage right here. It's like a twisting magnetic cage here. And it looks like he's custom drilled a straw tube in here so he can drink out of this bottle in aero. My guess would be that this has his concentrated calorie mix, and then these 2 bottles probably get swapped for course nutrition. And we've also looked at the front of Patrick's bike. He's got this custom aero bar setup up here to get his position nice and closed and get the air to flow around his body rather than into his torso. All right, so that's Patrick Lange. We'll take a quick look again at Magnus Ditlev as well. Similar story here, 1x drivetrain, covered rear derailleur cage, custom aero bar cups that do sort of the same thing. It looks like a one-piece solution. If we look from the front, yeah, we'll see that that's a covered one-piece thing. The idea here is to punch through the wind instead of allowing it underneath where it can scoop like a little bit of a parachute. Interestingly, Magnus has 3 bottles in the back. It looks like he's trying to get by with these as his primary nutrition for the whole race. He has internal hydration as well inside the frame. Now, it's interesting because when we see Magnus on the way back, he still has all 3 of these rear bottles. So this is the second half of the bike leg. He's already passed Javi and come back down, and we're in Waikoloa here. So there's probably only maybe 20, 30 miles left in the bike, and he still has 3 of his 4 original bottles. So that's pretty interesting. The front one has been swapped for a course water bottle, but everything else looks the same. That's really neat. And Magnus is using these little tape strips, which apparently, you guys in the comments are telling me is for aerodynamic reasons. I assume he tested this in the tunnel. If not, it's possible that he's just doing this on anecdotal evidence that these are helpful. I had ignored these previously because usually you see this kind of tape and it's done for physical therapy purposes, but it appears that some riders are doing this instead of aero socks, trying to make their legs that little bit more aerodynamic. I don't have any evidence of whether or not this works, but interesting. All right, number 3. Rudy von Berg. Rudy came in 3rd in the race. He's on this Factor Hanzo. I really like how the Hanzo looks from the front. It's a very nice and skinny bike here. Interesting aero bar solution. It appears to bolt in kind of an unusual way onto the frame, and then there is some kind of mono riser solution here that is kind of like a second stem. And Rudy is using a lot of parts to give him some forward offset so that he can get the reach that he wants. Again, looks like a 1x drivetrain, covered ceramic speed rear cage, double rear bottles on this saddle. Looks like he's riding a wove saddle. You can bolt directly to it, which is kind of neat. He's got some kind of custom fairing here that he looks like maybe that comes with the Hanzo, I don't know for sure. Profile design, bento box, and another bottle between the arms. It's a good setup overall. Interesting choices here. I don't know where he's keeping his primary nutrition, possibly in this down tube aero bottle by Elite. This Wove cage is still with him on the way back from Waikoloa, so maybe that has some concentrated nutrition in it as well. Interesting setup overall. Next up, Leon Chevalier. Leon is the only rider in the top 10 men not to use a saddle-mounted bottle, which is interesting. He's got a double aero bottle setup up front, like most of them, and a down tube aero bottle on his Cervelo P5. Again, he's running a 1x drivetrain, covered rear derailleur cage. I think most of the riders are doing that. He rides the POC Tempor helmet. It looks like Dark Helmet from Spaceballs, but it works really well for him. So for this position, this helmet is probably the best one for him. It's covering this little gap right above his shoulders, and so makes him really, really aero, obviously. I mean, he had a great race, but it's gotta be nice and tucked down there, otherwise this bill will flip up and catch air. But Leon had a great race, 7:46.54. I mean, come on. The times this year were just insane. They were just insane. But he looks real good on the bike. I'm guessing this is a concentrated nutrition, and maybe there's some more down here. Not sure, but looks good. Beautiful bike, 4i power meter, little flat kit under the saddle. He's intentionally not using rear hydration. He could here. The Cervelo has this little rosette here where you can mount a rear thing, but not doing it. He's got drag to zero extensions instead of like a mono thing up front like a lot of the top guys are doing now. But I wouldn't be surprised if he switched to something like that in the near future, because that's a trend that's got some legs, I think. All right, 5th place, Menno Koolhaas. He is riding another Scott Plasma 6, just like Magnus Ditlev. Different extensions here. Again, these are Spicos. They're custom built. They come out in a V like this. They kind of mimic what the Cervelo P5 extensions looked like, but then they come out into 2. I'm thinking if you're gonna splurge for this really expensive custom extension, you should definitely like cover this whole front area. That would be my suggestion anyway. Let's see, what's he doing for hydration and nutrition? Double bottle setup in the front and single in the rear. Looks like this one's getting switched out for course nutrition. Maybe this one here is his concentrated calorie mix. Probably a flat kit back here, or maybe this is even empty, who knows. A lot of guys don't keep flat kits. They just, if they flat, they just quit the race. Especially with how fast everyone's going these days. But, you know, you never know. You should never quit the race. Like, if Magnus Ditlev had quit when he had, you know, some bad luck at the beginning of the run, he wouldn't have come in 2nd place. So, you know, never give up. Let's see. Menno is one of the only ones without a covered rear cage from Ceramic Speed, but he's also still running 1x. I love this. I've been like a proponent of 1x forever, but everyone loved to say that it was silly and had no place in triathlon, and now everyone's doing it. So, interesting. All right, 6th place, Gregory Barnaby. I think the only Trek in the top 10, interestingly. Despite how popular these frames are, they're not super represented in the top 10 at Kona this year. 1x, covered Ceramic Speed rear again, rear bottle, single front bottle, I think. I think there's just one here. This is a really interesting contraption. It's kind of coming up a bunch of different funky ways. Looks like he has this set up with a straw. So I think this is a standard bottle that he's drilled a straw and a bite valve into, such that the bite valve is right over the bottle. So he can probably just dip his head and take a sip whenever he wants. That's handy. I'm guessing, oh, look, this is the same thing. It's another bottle with a bite valve. So looks like Gregory has 2 bottles with his concentrated nutrition, and he's just gonna chuck one or maybe swap them. I don't know if he wants to do that whole dance. I would guess he just chucks it and then builds a new bottle whenever he needs to, or puts it in special needs or something, I don't know. But really interesting. So he's doing a, you know, straw solution so he doesn't have to move. I think that's pretty smart. And then he's got 2 of them. That's really neat. Let's see. So here he is on his way back from the second half of the race. And yeah, it looks like he chucked one of the bottles, put the refill up here, and then is just using coarse water up front. I would bet that this one isn't being used. It's probably empty, or maybe it just has another round of that same fluid in it. Either way, I don't know. Custom aero bars. These ones are joined at the front. Let's see, we can get another good shot of him up front. Yeah, so see, they're joined like this. They're working with the funky Trek aero bar, which is not the easiest bar to live with or to work with, but he's got a good setup here. You know, hard for me to argue with someone who goes with a time of 7:48.22, but I think there's room to improve this position. He looks real hunched over. He's real curved. I feel like there's room to relax a little bit and still get all the same power and a little bit more comfort here. But, you know, who am I? I'm just an age grouper. But, okay, that's Gregory Barnaby. 7th place, Cam Wurf. Now, much has been made of Cam's Pinarello Bolide bicycle because they say that the retail price of this bicycle is $65,000. But really, I think that's a UCI thing. So the UCI mandates that any bicycle used by a pro must be available for the public to purchase. And so sometimes a company like Pinarello will make these really fancy bikes for their pro teams that they don't really want to sell to the public. So they sell it with an unbelievable price tag that no one will ever buy. Or, you know, one or two rich guys decide they want to be like the pros, and for $65,000, Pinarello will go through the trouble of making them a frame. But it's not worth $65,000. There is not $65,000 worth of bike here. However, there is $65,000 worth of rider, and that's Cam Wurf. He looks great on the bike. Another 1x setup, another covered ceramic speed rear cage here. He's got an aero bottle in the down tube. It looks like he is trying to use this because he's got rubber bands or something's going on there. Rear solution with kind of a double deal here. Maybe this is calories and this is like watered down calories. I don't know for sure. Little flat kit in there. He's not going to give up his race. Aero bottle between the arms and some other contraption here. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe his concentrated mix can go there. Maybe one of these things swaps out for there. I'm not really sure. Custom aero bar setup with reach. Let's see. Yeah, again, Cam might benefit from a sealed front up here. I think that's where everyone is going. He's got these really interesting flaps on this helmet. I'm not familiar with this helmet. I don't know if that's custom to it or if this is custom for him, but everything looks great. Obviously, Cam is one of the strongest riders out there, comes from a UCI background, but looks great. 7:51.26. Everyone in the top 10 went under 8 hours, which is insane. This was by far the fastest year ever in this race. So there's Cam. Don't know if I'm missing anything else there that's really interesting to note. All right, let's move on. 8th place, Kieran Lindars. He's on this Oro Venturi. It's not a bike I'm super familiar with, but there we have it. He's got an X-Lab setup back here with a single rear bottle and probably a little flat kit. And then up front, he's running the Profile HC bottle. It looks like just a single bottle. And then he's got his computer between his arms and some concentrated nutrition down here. We have one more without the ceramic speed treatment. So far, that's only 2 out of the top 10. But everything else is looking pretty standard. This is probably the most budget-oriented setup of all the men in the top 10. And he still managed to put together a 7:51 for the race, which is insane. Everybody in this race went crazy fast. So this helmet does something similar to the POC Tempor, which is that it's taking up space in front of the shoulders to make the whole head more like a complete form with the shoulders, so as not to trip up the wind quite as much. All right, so there's Kieran. Number 9, Kristen Hogenhaug. Christian is on a BMC Time Machine. These bikes have been interesting. They've always had kind of wonky aero bar setups that are real difficult to work with, but Christian is definitely taking advantage of the double bottle up front trend, really closing that bag. I mean, his body is literally touching the bottles. So that's interesting. He's getting around the no bottle down the shirt rule by just sitting right on top of the bottles. And it looks like he has a little custom 3D printed arrow fin under the bottle just to take up even that little bit more space. I don't know if that's comfortable. Maybe that would be nice to have something cold up against your chest, especially in Hawaii. Or if that would start to get uncomfortable. I don't know. Some kind of custom flat kit in the back. This looks like maybe it's from some other bike. I'm not familiar with what this is. If you know, tell me in the comments. And then a cage for rear hydration there. He's got the integrated bottle on the time machine with a straw going up here so he can drink. Probably some concentrated nutrition in there. 1x setup, ceramic speed rear cage, the standard that is like the Kona endorsed drivetrain. 1x ceramic speed cage. Christian looks great. You know, maybe he should get a covered solution there, but he's so close anyway with these extensions right up against his arms that he's kind of halfway there already. The wind is probably flowing around him pretty nicely, and with a 753, hard to argue. He's doing a great job. All right, and rounding out our top 10, in 10th place, Matt Hansen. Matt always looks great on the bike. Matt always makes really good aero choices in general. He looks to be just, maybe that's a single bottle up front with some kind of fairing to make it a little pointier. He's using internal hydration on the Quintana Roo, going up there. No ceramic speed, so he's the third athlete without that. And I think the first athlete in the top 10 we've seen who's actually using a front derailleur. I could be mistaken, but I don't think I saw another front derailleur in that top 10. If you did, correct me in the comments, please. But standard Dura Ace 2x. The Dura Ace is nice because you can set it up to shift automatically, so all you have to do is say up and down. So from the athlete's perspective, it is functionally very much like a 1x drivetrain, but you get more gears. So maybe that's why he likes it. I love 1x just for the simplicity, and these days there's enough, especially with 12 and 13 speed drivetrains. Matt is testing out quite a lot of reach here. I would say he's on the far end of the reach game. But just, so 2 bottles. These look like they were probably prepared beforehand. But let's look at him coming back in Waikoloa. One of them's gone, one of them's still there. So I would guess it's some concentrated nutrition. And then he's just supplementing with water. He's got drag to zero extensions that don't join in the front. I bet he would get a little bit of benefit out of that. But overall, he's doing great. He looks really good here. Really interesting, I think, to see this trend of what all the top 10 guys are doing. So many similarities in terms of nutrition, hydration, drivetrain choices. And in my opinion, they're all doing a really good job overall. There was not a terrible setup among them, not one. All of them were doing well. You know, there's lots of variation in how they're achieving that because there's no standard parts to run 2 bottles at the aero bars until now. We just launched them. So we launched a BTA rail that allows you to mount multiple bottles up front. You can check that out at tryrig.com. We have some other products in the works that will be launched soon to go along with that. That will make it a lot easier to have whatever kind of hydration setup up front that you'd like. We have a lot of stuff in the works that we're really excited about. It's clear that this stuff works. You can see the times going down and down and down as the bikes get cleaner and cleaner. It all kind of works together. I have a couple of honorable mentions to go through. So we'll start here with Antonio Benito Lopez. He rode an 803. I thought it was interesting. He's running a down tube bottle. One of the only athletes in the pro field I saw with a down tube bottle, which is a shame because he's got this great triple bottle setup. He even has a custom 3D printed piece on his rear bottles to make this as smooth as possible and work so well, and this custom bit here so he can ride this bottle and then a down tube bottle. It's like, come on. This looks like it's concentrated nutrition. It's a 1 liter down tube bottle. You could at least make that an aero bottle, right? I don't know. So I thought that was interesting. That's honorable mention number 1. Honorable mention number 2, Robert Vilkovici. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but on his Coup bicycle, obviously the most prominent custom feature here would be this massive bottle setup, which is so interesting. There's almost no space between the bottle and his body, has almost a consistent gap going the whole way. So that's really interesting. He's got that and an Elite Aero bottle and another bottle in the back with some other crazy custom contraption. Really interesting setup there. That's honorable mention number 2. Honorable mention number 3 is gonna be Trevor Foley. So Trevor, he's got a double bottle up front, maybe even a triple, I think it's just a double. And then in the back, he's riding the Tri-Rig Kappa saddle cage, but there must have been some sponsor conflict. Some sponsor told him, cover that Tri-Rig logo. We don't want anyone knowing where you got that amazing cage from. But of course, Trevor's riding the cage because it's the best. And maybe we'll end right here on Robert Callan. He's riding 2 of our cages. Thank you, Robert, for riding those cages. And with an 8:07 race, Robert came in 23rd, which is insane because 8:07 would have won the race for like the first 30 years it was run. All the way through, you know, the Iron War, Dave Scott and Mark Allen, they never ran an 8:07.25. They came close, but not quite. And you put that race together these days, you come in 23rd. But wow, what an astonishing ride. He's got a beautiful setup here too. A nice custom aero bar setup, his Tri-Rig cages, rear setup going on. Beautiful ride. Robert, thanks for riding our cages. Anyway, what did you think about this analysis? I think this stuff is fascinating. I love going through this. If there's other stuff you want to see, let me know. And yeah, if you want to put together a custom front end like this, stay tuned to tririg.com. We've already got the BTA rail. We have a BTA riser to get that bottle up off the center of the BTA mount. And we got a lot of cool stuff coming in the future, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.